Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today, a special guest with me, Jason Pitts, director of some really cool short films. And also, as a surprise to me, a little bit of a surprise, we also have Marilyn Knapp with us as well. How are you guys doing?
I'm
Great.
doing pretty good.
All
Yes.
right. It's always good to see smiles. All right. So, um, this is really cool because Jason, we talked a little bit over the last couple of days, and you have a couple of short films that you've worked on, directed, and written as well, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. And Alone is one of them, Masquerade, and now you're working on the third part, and this is all within a saga.
Correct.
Um, And first of all, I just want to say, Alone is really awesome. Marilyn, you star in that film as Patty. And by the way, and I said this before we went live, I'm so glad that you are nice in person
I am.
as opposed to the character in the movie. Not that you weren't nice in the movie, but definitely some things going on.
Yeah, Patty's nice. She means well. So
Does she though? No,
yes,
I'm
she
just playing.
does.
No, but I mean seriously, that was a really cool film, and I think you did a heck of a job. And first of all, as I was watching it, I guess we'll kind of start with Alone.
Sure.
Um, these live streams are unscripted, and we just try to have fun with them. But I was getting like, I don't know, like kind of Misery type vibes, like Kathy Bates type vibes. I don't know if that was intentional or if it was just me being a fan, projecting that. Was that in in the inspiration at all, or?
Absolutely. It was 100% intentional.
Oh, okay. All
Yes.
right.
And
Awesome.
Marilyn, during the shooting process and even a little bit of the when we were just developing the character together, she asked if she could borrow some of the verbiage that Kathy Bates uses in the film. There's a couple
Okay.
times she refers to some people as dirty birds, and
Mhm.
then she
Yes.
refers to Brock the cop as Mr. Man, which Kathy Bates but uses both of those terms in Misery. So yeah, 100% intentional.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, hey, it worked because first of all, Misery to me is such a great movie, and Kathy Bates is an icon. So Marilyn, kudos to you
Oh,
because that
mhm.
was the vibe that I was getting.
Oh, good.
Right? Yeah. I mean, heck of a job. Speaking of which, it's just interesting to get a sense of how people prepare for a role, especially like that. Was there anything in particular that you did to prepare yourself to play Patty, or anything that kind of went through your mind as you were, doing it, or was it
Well,
just totally natural?
I mean, I hate to say it's totally natural, but because that would mean I'm like Patty. But uh, no, I read through the script a bunch of times, and then Jason and I talked about Patty's background,
Hmm.
and I I've seen Misery probably 100 times. I don't know, and I still watch it now.
Hmm.
Every time it comes up, I think Kathy Bates is like the best ever, and
Yeah.
just the dynamics with what was going on in the movie, where she's like all happy and friendly, and then
Yes.
she takes a turn, and so I just tried to kind of use that feeling and some of that um, in Alone. And
Hmm.
again, I talked to Jason quite a bit, and we worked on it, and just kept thinking about it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it was it was very good. And by the way, we do have some folks in the live chat, and they are saying hello. That's hello to all of us.
Hello.
And hello to you guys too. And by the way, if you guys have any questions for Jason or for Marilyn, please let us know. You can just type them in the live chat, and we'll try to get to them. We'll also be talking about Jason's other films. as well. And so this should be pretty interesting. And also just maybe some general horror talk, because I
Yeah.
always get very interested in that type of stuff. But to circle back to Alone, Jason, the concept for that film, I mean, was that something that had been brewing in your mind for a long time, or was it something that was more recent?
No, it had been in development for a very long time. I guess it was about 8 years ago. I connected with a videographer who did a lot of music videos.
Hmm.
He was wanting to uh, he was wanting to start directing films, and he asked me to write something for him that he could direct, something small cast,
Hmm.
kind of easy to do. And we met one night at an IHOP and just talked for about 4 hours, developing just the initial concept of what eventually became Alone. And
Hmm.
he wanted a twist. He wanted a character who seemed innocent, and then turned out to be the villain. And we came up with the idea of Patty, and kind of modeled her after the at the time there was a lot of stories in the news about angels of death, nurses
Yes.
who yeah. And so we kind of took that and developed that from there. And then I went home over the next month or so. I wrote the script, um and then he just never got around to doing anything with it. And years went by, and
Hmm.
I was like, man, that story is really good, and it's too good to just kind of sit there by itself, sit
Yeah.
alone.
Wow. Aha.
uh, but and then, so we fast forward several years, and I
Hmm.
meet. We'll talk about him later, but Samantha Shaw, who played Kat in Alone,
Hmm.
I meet her, and then I meet Olivia Disney, who played Sylvia in Masquerade. I
Hmm.
meet them on another film project in Birmingham, and we're just all talking one night. A lot of other actors and directors were there too, but we're all taking turns talking about our dream roles or our dream projects. And um, Samantha tells me hers, and then Olivia tells me hers, and I was like, you know
Hmm.
what, let's just do them and make them. And then meeting Samantha, man, it was like Kat just walked off the page. So
Wow.
I asked her to be in Alone
Hmm.
as Kat. And then from there, like, at that point, Alone was just a standalone film. But then
Hmm.
as I started working with them on their characters that I wrote for them or developed with them, I
Hmm.
realized that I could expand this universe and incorporate these characters into this story. And then that's when Masquerade and Lonely Echoes and Unmasked kind of grew and developed from there.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So that's how that happened. It's a very long process.
But very, very cool. And like you said, and we'll get to Masquerade too, as well, I should say. And it was interesting that you had those bridges
Mhm.
between the movie, because I did not expect that when I was watching Masquerade. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Oh, that's right. She had a sister.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a
So
detective.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that
So
was
the
very
the
clever.
character that you meet in Masquerade that Sam is
Hmm.
playing at the end, Samantha, is her
Hmm.
dream character. Like, just hard nosed,
Wow.
badass detective, kind of modeled a little bit after like Deborah Morgan from Dexter.
Okay.
So, yeah. And
Very,
then
very cool.
obviously Olivia's dream character was Sylvia.
Wow. Yeah, and she killed that role too. Um, we also have uh, our good friend Brian, who's saying, "Hey, night, Jason and Marilyn. What's going on, Brian? How you
Hey
doing?
Brian, how are
Welcome
you?
to the chat. Nice to see you." And Steven is in the chat too. The peace sign.
Yeah.
Rock on, man. We do have a question, and it's from my co-host, Coriander, who is asking Jason. I love this. I knew she would ask a question like this. Who is your favorite final girl, and which Friday the 13th is your favorite?
My favorite final girl is Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street. I think her character arc is awesome, and
Hmm.
she just becomes this fighter, researches these traps. researches how to like not really control her nightmares, not to the extent that Alice does later in the series, but
Yes.
just to fight back mentally and physically.
Mhm.
I think is I love Nancy. And my favorite Friday is part two. I really like part two. I like Amy Steele's character.
Oh, you just said the right answer.
And just the psychological aspect that the psychological aspect that they bring into her character and the way she's able to uh, thwart Jason a couple times just using her
Mm,
mind was awesome, and that it's something that they really haven't done much with. A little bit with
yeah.
Corey Feldman in part four, but man,
Yes.
love part two.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, I've actually been fortunate that on the channel, me and my co-host Coriander and my brother Killian, we've been going through the Friday 13th franchise, and kind of each movie, and talking about the ups and the downs of it. And we were actually talking about that aspect of how Amy Steele's character of Jenny used that psychology on
Mhm.
Jason, and then they showed a little bit of it with Tommy Jarvis, but it's an interesting thing that they did early in the franchise that they really haven't gone back to as much. But
Exactly.
interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Um,
Hey Marilyn, I
Marilyn,
don't think he knows. Should I tell him?
what?
We have a Friday the 13th franchise or fan film coming out as well.
Yes,
Did you know about that?
I got
I
the
did.
shirt on.
Yeah, she's wearing the shirt.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, absolutely. Now, okay, now this is kind of cool. I want to jump to that. We'll get back to Masquerade, but for your fan film, so that's Night of the Beast,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Where does that take place within the mythology, the Friday
Yes.
the 13th mythology? Okay, now
Yeah.
it's so funny. Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that's always bothered me about the franchise, so
Hmm.
I'm in the minority. I think that part nine, it has potential. Like it's not a perfect film by any means. It definitely has its problems, uh,
Hmm.
but they try to do some interesting things. Um, for whatever reason, things got in the way, budget or studio or whatever. Like it didn't all come together like it should have. But um,
Hmm.
there's some things I really liked about it. I really liked the Cretan Duke character. I really
Yes.
liked, uh, but the thing that always bothered me is like we go from part eight to part nine, and Jason almost becomes like a different being. Like he's just,
Hmm.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So the our film takes place between part eight and part nine, and it
Uh-huh.
kind of explains all that.
Hmm.
It does. It's my take on how we got from part eight to part nine and how Jason became what he is in part nine.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and it explains a little bit of that. It's an origin story for Cretan Duke. In Jason Goes to Hell, we know that he had a previous encounter with Jason that's never explained, never talked about.
Right.
He just says, "Remember me," and that's it, really.
Mhm.
Um, and then so it's an origin story for Duke. And then do you remember in part six the kids that are under the bed, the two
Oh,
boys?
yes. Oh,
Um,
yes.
one of the main characters in our film is one of those boys grown up, and
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, that is so funny.
he's dealing with like nightmares from that experience and post traumatic stress and stuff like
Wow.
that. And his friends are trying to help him. You know, he won't talk about it, so they don't really know what's going on. And
Mhm.
that's where the story starts, is them trying to help him. And then
Wow.
with all of that, we even throw in Bigfoot.
Okay, all right.
The
Why not?
Jason versus Bigfoot movie.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, well, I love the whole the mythology of Bigfoot anyways, just as a side thing. So that's right up my alley. That is really, really cool. It's so funny that you said this because we've been going through our Friday the 13th series, and just about this was before we actually talked. I don't know, maybe it was a week and a half ago or so. We did an episode where we talked about what we'd like to see in a Friday the 13th sequel because obviously we've been waiting for so long, and we actually picked um, the girl Nancy in part 6, the one that actually saw
Mhm.
Jason and he comes
Mhm.
over top of her in the bed and
Mhm.
she prays
Yeah.
him away. And we were
Yeah.
actually talking about how she could be,
Yeah.
a character grown up dealing with the trauma of that night and so forth. That's cool though. I liked the kids though. Those boys were really
Yeah.
good characters in Jason Lives too. That's awesome. Wow, what a wow, that's great.
That is a crazy coincidence.
It is. And honestly, you could watch the video because the video has been up for like a couple weeks. That is too funny. But we were just, just fan wishing and stuff like that. But that's really cool that you're going with Creighton Duke. Coriander was saying it sounds really good. She loves Duke in that movie.
Yeah.
I'm the only one of the three of us that doesn't mind this one. Well, I will say, I agree with what you said, Jason, because I think the problem with the Final Friday is it just kind of felt like it was just not within the same mythology of the
Yeah.
other 8 films.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely not my favorite in the franchise. It's a it's a pretty interesting horror movie, but I'm not a big fan of it as a Friday the 13th movie. That's how I usually explain it to people. Um, but interesting. Very, very cool. Um, Marilyn, and now something you told me before we went live, which was really interesting, is that you're a big fan of slasher movies.
Well, I am. I'm actually a big fan of all horror movies. Um,
Okay.
I, grew up at a very young age. My dad would show me horror films, and which is like, yeah, I should be. Well, I am twisted, but it's okay. But
Okay.
like one of my first ones was The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and then there was The Brain That Wouldn't Die. I think that's what it was
Oh
called.
yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but that was
Yeah.
I was like get traumatized is what it was. And then the first Friday the 13th scared the crap out of me
Me
with
too.
all the blood gushing and all that kind of stuff. But it just kept bringing me in.
Mm,
And Nightmare on Elm Street.
yes.
Yeah, the whole concept of somebody being pushed up on the ceiling and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff happening. I'm like, how did they do that?
Mm.
Um, I think one of the things that I really loved the most was the original Scream,
All right.
because it kind of brought together all those. Well, this is a horror movie, and to survive a
Mhm.
horror movie, this is what you got to do, and if you don't do it, so
Very
yes,
cool.
I love all of them.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I agree with you. And I loved a lot of the older horror movies from back in the day.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Night of the Living Dead from
Oh
George
yeah.
Romero.
Yeah.
Um,
All
I
of those
snuck,
are wonderful. Yeah.
yeah, I watched it at my grandmother's house. I snuck into the living room to watch that. And yeah, it was something that kind of changed my world, so to speak.
I bet.
Um, We've got Patrick in the chat too from Have Cheetah Will View, and he's asking, "Is Jason X the best Friday the 13th film?"
No.
I agree. I agree.
It's
It
probably
is
the
not.
funnest,
Good
but
point.
but the best, I wouldn't say it's the best, no. But it's definitely fun. It's a fun ride.
It is fun. And it's funny because growing up in the 80s, I was exposed to obviously a lot of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween as kind of like the big three.
Right.
And although Friday the 13th, has had an interesting journey with its franchise, in general, I find even something like Jason X that I can watch it and have fun with. Whereas, like in the Halloween franchise,
Yeah.
something like Halloween Resurrection, I'm not as much of a fan of. I reviewed it on my channel, but we were kind of afraid to do that because the three of us didn't really enjoy it.
Mhm.
So, but Friday the 13th just has that type of, I don't know. It just something about that franchise. Maybe it's the setting. Maybe it's, it did have a lot of movies that were pretty darn good. But I can forgive a lot of the the Downs in Friday the
Yeah.
13th for some reason.
I think what I enjoy so much about them is it's like finding new ways to kill people.
Yeah,
It's
that's true.
it's like, oh, he just punched his head off, so that's cool. So
Yeah, that's so true. Oh my gosh, too funny. Coriander was asking Marilyn, what's your favorite werewolf
oh my
movie?
goodness, it has to be American Werewolf in London.
You just made my co-host very happy because that's her favorite movie of all
It
time.
was terrifying, but
It's so
so
good.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And back then the special effects and stuff was not that great, but
Hmm.
I mean to now, but back then it was like, oh my goodness.
Yes.
His body is changing. He's growing
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Amazing.
yeah. And just the fun that the two characters have, the one that's already dead and the one that's werewolf, is that banter that they have is
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that transformation scene still to this day,
Oh.
it
It
amazes
holds up.
me.
Yeah, it holds up for
Yeah.
sure.
It really does. It really does. Hey, Dan. Dan's in the chat too.
Hey, Dan.
And Coriander agrees. The best transformation. I think that's no doubt about that at all. The Insane One says Marilyn has a new fan. Great taste in film. Yes, she does have great taste in film. Very, very cool. An Insane One, let us know. Did you see Alone? Because like I was telling Marilyn, gosh, man, just seeing her performance in it, it was just like so creepy, like in the best way possible, as a performance. Like I was really, as the movie went on, I found myself just kind of like, oh my gosh, this is not going to end up well for Kat, and just as the scenes went on, going to the restaurant and then back into the car. And then, of course, when the reveal is that you did something to incapacitate her. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just, wow. Very, very cool.
Well, a lot
So,
of that has to deal with Jason, helping me, be on track with the mindset of Patty. And then I also got a lot of encouragement from Sam and Clayton and all the crew, and that
cool.
helped me feel good. Like, okay, I'm on the right
Yeah.
track. So, yeah.
Right. Was that your first performance?
That was my basically, yes, with that dialogue and as a lead character, it was.
Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
it was
Wow.
fun.
That
And
that is
she knocked it out of the park first time. Boom.
yeah, I agree. Whew. Wow. The Insane One answering our question. Yes, did see Alone, and when I saw her on your show, I got shivers thinking of Alone. That is cool. And saying, what a treat. That is so
Uh-huh.
cool, man. Oh, I'm glad that yeah, this is awesome, guys. Really cool. But to move to Masquerade, that movie is a lot different,
Yes.
Jason. I mean, it in a good way, of course, because I just watched that the other day, and I was like, "Holy wow!" You just that going down that rabbit hole. I was just like, "This is wow, crazy." What was the process for that? Was there any particular, um, you know, thought about doing this movie that you had for a while, or did it just come together? How was that?
So when I decided that I wanted to expand Alone into this saga of four
Hmm.
films, uh, one of the things that was at the forefront of my mind was I want them all to be different. I don't want them to have
Hmm.
the same type of feel, and I want to use them to kind of showcase our talent as a team, like the cinematographer Charlie Brady, all
Hmm.
of the actors, our sound person Lon Keith, our special effects people. I wanted to use these films and do so that they feel different, even though they're telling an overarching story, to kind of
Hmm.
showcase that we can we can perform and be creative in these different subgenres of horror.
Mm.
Alone, obviously, you hit the nail on the head. Like it's the psychological horror film, like Misery.
Hmm.
Masquerade is the home invasion slasher film, like The Strangers
Yes.
or You're Next,
Hmm.
those types of films. And so once I decided that I want to do each of these four films in its own kind of genre, then uh, I started talking with Olivia about the character and her dream character. Her words. She's like, I want to play a batshit crazy hot girl like Baby from House of a Thousand Corpses and the Rob Zombie movies.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
Baby is like, and a little bit of Harley Quinn is the main inspiration behind Sylvia in Masquerade. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
once we had that kind of model,
Hmm.
obviously we didn't want it to be an exact copy of those characters, but just kind of
Hmm.
inspired by those characters. We started talking about what theme, because I'm big on themes. Each of these films have a theme as well that a large um, a large portion of the audience can connect and relate to.
Mm.
Um, and so once we decided that we wanted to do something with this character, then we came up with a theme, and the theme that we came up with was what if she is a supermodel, right?
Hmm.
And the entire world sees her one way, but she's really a different way. And then we started thinking about like how can we communicate that easily in a film? And then we started talking
Right.
about masks. Like she's like her persona is a mask
Hmm.
for the monster that she really is. And then so once we had the theme, then we just built the story around the theme
Yeah.
and made all these other characters. And like as you go through the film, every single character in the film is either figuratively or literally wearing a mask. And then we just built her character and the story from that theme outward. And we worked on it a lot together. And I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, when I watched it, it definitely went in a direction I didn't expect. I really thought it was going to, and you hit it with saying The Strangers or You're Next. I did not expect it, to go the way it went with her turning the tables. By the
Right.
way, I mean, just like with you, Marilyn, Olivia, a great job just showing this duality for both of you actresses. I no, I'm not an actor myself, but I can just imagine that that is not easy to do and to be convincing both ways. Nice and then obviously a little unhinged or maybe a lot unhinged in some cases. But uh, very very cool. And we also have someone else, Awas Love Alone, great movie. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. So that's great. We have a lot of people that have been watching this. How is that movie doing? Because obviously that was the first movie.
Yeah. So because it was the first, the initial run was quiet. Um,
Hmm.
all of last year through 2021, it went through its festival run.
Hmm.
Um, it was in festivals like the entire year from January all the way to December, and
Hmm.
just as it hit festival after festival after festival, like I could tell that the audience was growing. Um,
Hmm.
and to like as of right now, it was accepted into 34 festivals all across the globe, and
Wow.
it's won 16 awards. Most of those are honorable mentions, but
Hmm.
we did get one best short film, one for best director, uh, two for best hair and makeup, and one for best editing. So
Wow.
yeah, it did pretty good. Now that Masquerade is hitting, and a lot of these festivals saw Alone already, and now they're
Hmm.
seeing Masquerade. It's I've noticed that Alone, like within the last like since Masquerade came out, so like two months,
Hmm.
Alone went from like 600 views to like over 1,000. It's like at 1.1 views now. So
Awesome.
because of how Masquerade is doing, I think that is really helping Alone as well.
Very, very cool. I mean, and that's showing that the word is getting out there and that people are responding. I mean, I think that's awesome. It
Yeah,
really, really is. And it's good to see, folks that are working on these films, these smaller films, they can get recognition and start to grow not only, their brand, but like you said, you're showing people what all of you can do, collectively. And that's just awesome. Very, very cool.
thank you.
Um, Dan saying, I need to see this. Yes, Dan, I think you would definitely enjoy both of these films. I definitely think so. And I'll,
Once
I'll
we
have
get to
the.
Lonely Echoes, once we get to talking about Lonely Echoes, Dan, I will tell
Mhm.
you how you can watch Masquerade.
Oh, cool. Yeah, very cool. Absolutely. And it's funny you said that because I was going to say I will have the link to Alone in
Yes.
the description because that is up on YouTube,
Yes.
and I'll have that link, Dan. I think you're really going to enjoy that. Insane One saying we all go a little mad sometimes. Yes, we do, Norman. Yes, we do. I
Or,
love
or
Psycho.
Billy, or Billy Loomis, depending on what
Yeah.
jumps in your
Yeah,
hands.
either one worked,
Good point.
right?
Very good point. Very,
Yeah.
very good point. I love that. Awesome, awesome. Um, so okay, so let's move to Lonely Echoes. Let's kind of head towards there. So where are you at in the process with it? You have an Indiegogo, which I'm going to put a link for that also in the description of this video, and also try to promote that on social media, because I want to see what's going to happen next myself. Now that you've got these two stories that
Mhm.
connect. Literally, when I saw the end of Masquerade, I was like, what? That's very clever. So where are you at in the process with Lonely Echoes,
Uh,
and what can you share about it or what to
sure,
expect from it?
absolutely. We are in the pre-production processes. We are in the middle of fundraising, looking for locations, character
Mhm.
development. We're trying to plan a table read. The script's finished. It's all done.
Okay.
But that's where we're at in that process.
Mhm.
We're looking to shoot it in May, from like May 7th through the 14th, are our shooting days that we have scheduled.
Okay.
Um, but the story follows Kim Spencer, Detective Kim Spencer's Kat's twin sister,
Mhm.
and it picks up about a month after Masquerade and Alone. Masquerade and Alone almost happened kind of simultaneously, like
Oh, okay. All right. Yep.
uh,
Makes sense.
pretty much at the same time. And then,
Mhm.
so it picks up a month after. She's in this town looking for her sister's last known location, and
Mhm.
she meets the characters from Alone, and some while she pretty much conducts her own investigation. I, I
Mhm.
I was mentioning how each one of these is done in its own subgenre of the horror genre.
Mhm.
This one is our investigative horror film, kind of like Seven, or
Oh.
Silence of the Lambs.
Oh man, you just said two great films that I absolutely adore. Oh my gosh, that's
And
great.
so
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
we're that's our goal for Lonely Echoes, is to make it in that vein.
Okay.
But as she's conducting her own investigation, she runs into Brock, uh, and she's got Sylvia keeping an eye on her. Like, Sylvia
Mhm.
is kind of in the wings, and just a lot of things kind of start to merge and come together. I don't want to give too much away, but
Okay.
I got there.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie. I was gonna ask a question. I said no. I'm not gonna ask that question because I just wanna see it.
Um, but
But
yeah,
that's great.
uh, and through her investigation, she starts uncovering some pretty deep secrets that this town has.
Wow. Very cool. I mean, you're basically creating your own like the Marvel Cinematic Universe where you've
Yeah.
got movies that are bridging together and characters that are
Mhm.
that's really cool. Very, very neat. And the idea of them each kind of having their own kind of theme or inspiration that they're taking. I think that's great because, and we hadn't even talked about this, but the idea of Alone having that misery, type of vibe, a psychological edge to it, and then of course the slasher themed Masquerade. That's just great. I mean, like you're horror fans will be happy one way or the other.
Yeah.
They will enjoy these films, or at least
Once
enjoy aspects.
once they're all done, the idea is that somebody could sit down and watch them all in a 2.5 hour time frame and just really enjoy
Cool.
them all together.
Very, very cool. That is awesome. Wow. Very exciting. And Brian was saying, wishing you the best with making your next film, Jason.
Thank you so
Brian, that's
much.
very kind of you. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Now, how about we talk about the Indiegogo
Sure.
for Lonely Echoes?
Yeah. We have an
Yeah.
Indiegogo up. It's got 42 days left, I think, in it.
Yeah. And I do have a screen for it that I can put up too while you're talking about it.
Before we launched the Indiegogo, like we did 3 local screenings of Masquerade, and we sold DVDs, and we raised about $1,000. Most of that is already spent now on special effects for Lonely Echoes, but we are trying to hit around $20,000. The entire cast and crew for Alone and Masquerade all worked for free. And
wow.
This time around, I really, really would like to pay these people because they are all fantastic. They're all creative. They work hard, and they deserve their time compensated. They all
Absolutely.
that they want to come back, even if we don't raise the money. But I after 2 of them, I just really started to feel bad. And I was like, man, I really just want to be able to pay these people. And now that we have 2 films out, and they are both seem to be accepted as good films, I'm hoping that the people who enjoy them will be inclined to pitch in and help us out. Now that is what you have on there right now is exactly how people can see Masquerade right now. Go to this Indiegogo page, get that perk, the $5 Masquerade link perk. I will email you a private link to Masquerade to where you can watch the entire film, and you get a social media shout out.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely, well, and one way you can think of it too is because the film Masquerade is about, isn't it like about 38 minutes long or so?
37 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, it went by so fast, in a good way. I was kind of like, wow, okay, but you were able to do what you needed to do in it. It's definitely worth $5 if you think of it that way. It's very, very cool. I enjoyed it tons.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And
Yeah,
we got some other perks on there. You can get a signed screenplay of Lonely Echoes. There's one perk on there. If you're willing to travel, otherwise you kind of have to be local. You can be a featured extra. We have one scene at the very end of the film that is just going to be absolutely bone chilling, and we need a lot of extras for it.
Okay.
So that's what that perk is. Video chat with me or any of the actors. Digital copy of Lonely Echoes before we submit it into film festivals or have any screenings.
Okay.
So yeah, there's some good perks in there. Get on there and check it out.
Very, very cool. Yeah. And I will, and like I said, for the folks watching this live,
I plan on adding 3 more or 4 more perks tomorrow.
Okay.
3 of them are going to be the masks from Masquerade.
Oh,
I'll put those
okay.
up. Yeah. And then one of them is going to be you can get your face on a missing poster in Lonely Echoes.
I like that. That's creative.
I'm gonna have those go up tomorrow, probably.
That's cool. That is very cool. And by the way, and I'm trying not to do too much spoilery type of stuff, but when I saw the wanted poster with Kat,
At
you
the end of
know,
Alone,
and I was
Masquerade.
and Masquerade, yeah, I was just like, wow, that's just bringing it all together, very, very cool. But I will put the link to this in the description, and definitely, I definitely would like to support because, like I said, these films, they're very good, and I enjoy short films and fan films and stuff like that. So it's always cool to see. I think someone in the chat just said creative juices flowing, and that's the great thing about the horror genre is that you can have so much creativity. You got creativity and inspiration from a lot of great movies like you guys have spoken about. So it's very, very cool. Very, very cool. Brian saying, great idea for perks, Jason. I think so too. Absolutely. We've got another question too. Who does the music for your films?
So his name is Dustin Yoder, and he lives in Conway, Arkansas, and he's a brilliant musician. He's classically trained. He has a degree in classical music, and he's performed on the floor of Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
But if there's any other filmmakers out there who would love music, I highly encourage you to hit him up. His name is Dustin Yoder, spelled Yoder.
Wow. Very, very cool. Awesome. Awesome. And also for you, Marilyn, now that we've got the cat out of the bag that you're a slasher fanatic, now that everybody knows, I've been fortunate enough, Coriander, my co-host, and I on Monday nights, we have been doing a series for quite a while. We call it Slasher Movie Club. And every Monday night we discuss a slasher film. And we've been fortunate enough to kind of go through the golden age. There was a lot, hundreds,
Yeah.
right? And I think we're like somewhere around 1982 or 1983. Some of these I had never seen. Right? Exactly. It's crazy. But and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but if you I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But if you were to either speak about another slasher film that you really, really enjoy, just to say what it might be that we haven't spoken about yet,
Oh,
or maybe something that you like as a slasher film that maybe most people wouldn't, or it might be considered cheesy or something like that. Do you have a film like that in your mind? Oh gosh. When you did that, I was
okay.
like, what?
So I don't know if it's actually, a slasher film because there are so many genres and types of horror and all that kind of stuff. But the Saw movies get me every time. And I guess there
Ooh.
is some slashing involved, but there's also body parts flying and things.
Yeah,
But
they are.
I am a fan of them, and I
Wow.
question my sanity sometimes when I watch them. But they're interesting, and I find myself going, what would I do in that position?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, I hope that answers your
absolutely.
question, but that's where my
It
mind.
did.
So okay.
It did, and I will second that. I'm a big fan of the Saw franchise.
And
And even though as this I think the original was groundbreaking,
the best,
just
I think.
yeah. And even though they kind of, went around all over the place a little
Yeah.
bit as they went on, I still was a fan for it, and yeah.
I actually really like the second one the best. I think the first one's really, really freaking good.
Yeah.
But the second one, when we really dig into who John Kramer is and his motives,
Yeah.
That's
and
true. That's true.
Donnie Wahlberg's performance, man,
Yes.
off the
Yes.
charts good.
Mhm.
But
I
yeah, I
agree.
really like part two.
Yeah. Tobin Bell. I mean,
Yeah.
wow, those scenes and the interesting thing, like you said, those scenes where they were just talking, and just the cat and mouse, that was going on between him and Donnie Wahlberg. It was just like,
Mhm.
wow, this is great stuff. Yeah, I agree. 2 was excellent. Um, Brian saying he likes the concept for the Saw films. That's pretty cool, Brian. I did not know that. Brian knows his movies, and he's a big supporter of this community and of this channel. And I did not know that. I learn something new every day.
I have
Very, very
I have one.
sure.
Um, it's the only slasher film where nobody dies, and it's April Fool's Day.
I was thinking that.
I love
Yeah.
April Fool's Day.
That is a good one. Amy Steele's in that too.
Yeah, she is. She is.
Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah, that is, and it's old school. I love those movies. I really do. I don't know. I know sometimes nostalgia plays a lot, in what you enjoy and memories and stuff like that. But those movies from that time period, the late 70s throughout the 80s and early 90s, at least for me, they do hold a special place in my heart as far as being a horror fan. They really, really do. Now, with that being said, it's funny that this was not planned, except for some of my questions, which we actually have covered answers for a few. But what I was going to ask, and it's funny that Marilyn brought up Saw, because what I was going to ask, and we know that James Wan, masterminded, so many of the concepts for that and other films. What are your feelings? What are your thoughts about newer horror directors like a James Wan or an Ari Aster or Jordan Peele, folks like that?
I think they're fantastic. I love James Wan. I think everything he touches is good. It's really good.
Wow.
I love The
Awesome.
Conjuring.
Mhm.
The Conjuring 1 and 2 are phenomenal.
Yes.
I like Flanagan. Flanagan's really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like Peele. I think his his movies are very high concept, but they all have like just like this kernel of an idea that is really really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you kind of grow from that, he kind of gets a little out there. Like um, the concept behind Us,
Us.
I,
Yes.
Yeah.
I just don't think it holds up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Once you really start examining it and looking into it, because
Mm-hmm.
like the idea is over 20 plus years, you have this underground like race of people who have grown and become doppelgangers,
Mm-hmm.
like through genetics, right? Because it started with a genetic experiment in one
Mm-hmm.
location, and then they grow and they infest underground all over the planet, and then you jump 20 years and everybody has a doppelganger.
Right.
Well, for that to happen logically, everybody down in the everybody underground would have to find the exact mate that the people up top uh, found, right?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
Yeah.
for the kids to have doppelgangers, and that's just too much for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It
still just
definitely.
go with it. I just go.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fun film,
Yeah.
and
And
it
some of the
definitely has some awesome,
performances
awesome
are
moments.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a story guy, and I start digging into
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. I'm just like, that just doesn't make sense.
I hear you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
but
for
yeah,
me,
great acting,
Yeah.
yeah,
Great acting. Oh
great
my.
horror moments.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love the callback to Lost Boys in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and he's such a big horror fan himself, and you can see that in his work, and it's just cool to see that, folks that really do have a love for the genre and a history of horror. Um, it's just cool to see them being able to do things and being able to bring a new twist on it. Just like with you guys, it's just really cool because we have seen many times that folks that maybe aren't big fans of the genre, um, they don't really put their whole soul into the
yeah.
projects, and
Yep.
it's too bad. But fortunately, horror to me, and you guys let me know what you think too. Horror seems to me to be at a point now where it seems to be respected, a bit more, or at least the care that is put into the movies, it seems to be like it just seems to be more respected, more care to detail and things like that. Like when I think of the new Halloween movies,
Mhm.
it just seems like, well, number one, they got a good mask. That was that was that was number one, because there were some sequels where the mask just
Yeah,
did not,
terrible.
it didn't look like William Shatner on any day.
Right.
And 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 I was just thinking to myself, why can't they get a good mask? All you need to, I mean, I've got one right here, granted I got it from,
Right.
Yeah, there's
but
masks everywhere.
right? I mean, and but it just seems like with the new movies, at least they had attention to those types of things to make sure the mask it looks the way that the 1978 film did, and um respecting the mythology and so forth. So it just seems like, and of course, like you said, James Wan, his movies, very well done, attention to detail. He's really, he treats it as important as any other genre, and that's refreshing to see. Do you guys get a sense of that, or is that just the fanboy in me that just is like, horror is more important nowadays?
No, there's definitely something to that, and I
Mhm.
think like the people who grew up with it are now making these films. Like, um, there was a renaissance in the 70s and the 80s in horror. It was
Yes.
under, like, it wasn't mainstream, but uh, like there were very, very impressionable youths who grew up on it, and now they're in their 30s, 40s, and they're making these films,
Hmm.
because they grew up on it and they loved it so much. So yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that's where it came from.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
Mm.
yeah.
I totally
And
agree.
I think, like, as far as it being accepted, like horror being, I think it started with Silence of the Lambs, and
Mm.
Oh yeah.
just this amazing film that won an Oscar, like a horror film before Silence of the Lambs, that never happened.
Right.
Mhm.
And a horror film winning Oscar for Best Picture, it's just like insane. And now,
Yeah.
I mean, horror films are getting nominated for Oscars more often than not.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I don't think since then one has won Best Picture, but they've gotten
Mhm.
close.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
I love Midsummer. I think Midsummer is a fantastic film,
Oh, yeah.
and I like Hereditary as well.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
I know those types of films are, like, I guess they're called artistic horror. I don't know what the term is,
Mhm.
uh, but they're very divisive. Like, a lot of people, like, a lot of horror fans don't like them because, I guess, because they're so polished.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but man, I like them. Give
Yeah.
me a good story and like good talent filmmaking, and,
Mhm.
I'll support it and I'll like it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because Insane One say Night, you're right about right, horror is important. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Um, you're right though, because there are some folks that look at movies like Hereditary or The Witch,
Yeah, The
or
Witch.
Midsommar. Um, they look at those films as, well, one term that I've heard, well, it was in Scream 5, was, the elevated horror or
Elevated
what have
Horror.
you.
Yeah,
Um, I just look at it, it's a good movie that creeped me out, and
Yes.
there were good performances, especially Hereditary, Toni Collette, my
yeah.
goodness,
She's always
my
been one of my
goodness.
favorite. Oh my gosh. Ever
Mm,
since Sixth Sense,
yes.
love her. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I could not understand why she was not, nominated for her
Absolutely.
performance.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Absolutely.
And even
that wh
Florence Pugh in Midsummer, I
mm,
think she was nominated as well.
yes, yes, I agree. Both actresses, just what they went through in those movies, and again, these are horror movies with these characters that have really interesting arcs,
Mhm.
and you don't you don't always get a chance to see a lot of that, especially in mainstream horror films, and it was refreshing, and those actors and actresses did great jobs, but I enjoy both of those movies as well. I really, really do. Like, I can sit down and watch a cheesy 80s slasher one night, and the next night watch something like Hereditary, and I'm still happy as can be. It just
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think there's a large portion of the horror community, though, that just really, really loves the B horror slapstick, over the
Hmm.
top blood, dead alive type stuff. And
Hmm.
when these elevated horror films started creeping in on their territory, like, that's not horror. What I love is horror. So I think
Hmm.
that's kind of where some of that comes from. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely very divisive. Like, you can
Yeah.
go on any horror YouTube page, and there's people that love them, and there's people that just hate them.
Oh yeah, I see it. I see it myself in live chats. You'll see people that are like "woo" or people are saying "boo," and it's like, well, it's not for everyone. But I appreciate the fact that these are stories that are trying to do something a little bit different, and they're well made, and
Absolutely.
that in and of itself gets my respect, even if I don't totally love the film. It just gets my respect for them to try to add something new to the genre and do it with good care. It really, it's huge. Um, Brian saying, "Love the Witch." I think you can call that a slow burn film. Absolutely,
Absolutely.
that is very true. Very true.
So, about a year and a half ago, I saw a film on Shudder
Hmm.
that blew me away. Is absolutely fantastic, and I didn't see it advertised very much. I want to see
Hmm.
if you've seen it. Anything for Jackson? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that.
Holy crap!
Yes, I have.
That movie is phenomenal.
That was
Really?
awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
So go
Oh,
see that. Go watch that.
I will
yeah,
put
do
that
it.
on my list.
Unbelievable.
Do it.
Yeah.
Wow. Anything for Jackson. Okay, on
Yes.
Mhm.
Shutter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my husband loved it too. He thought it was great. And he's not
Okay.
the big horror fan that I am or anything, but he tolerates me.
Oh.
No, he's great.
Did you watch Supernatural at all?
I saw
No.
some of Supernatural, but I never
Okay.
got big
No,
into it.
not gonna be into it. Okay. I can't remember his name, but there's an actor who plays Death in that series in Supernatural, and he's the lead, one of the leads in anything for Jackson. But if you haven't seen
Okay.
Supernatural, you probably don't know who I'm talking about. You may recognize him when you see him because he's one of those that has just he's in a lot of stuff. And you might
Yeah.
recognize him. But
Yeah, I will definitely check
Interesting.
that out. Looks
Mm,
like Dan agrees. That's a good one, Jason.
it is.
yeah.
Very cool. Uh,
Uh,
Pamela saying, "I'm trying to adjust to this 2000 horror movies. It's hard. It is a little bit different. I agree with that, you know.
yeah.
But I definitely enjoy quite a few of them. Dan saying there's so many eras and subgenres to choose from. Not sure why some people get their undies in a bunch so much."
I don't understand either, Dan. A good film's a good film.
Yeah.
Very cool. Patrick saying Shutter puts out some decent films. I absolutely agree.
Mhm.
I absolutely agree.
So there is one film that I absolutely adore that almost nobody else does. Um,
Okay.
uh, like, I talk to people about it, and they're like, "I don't know how you like that."
Okay.
It's
This will be interesting.
Blair Witch 2: Book of Shadows.
Oh, I liked it.
Oh,
I thought
yeah. I
that
actually
Yeah.
actually
movie
enjoyed it.
was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that there's actually both of you guys like it.
Well, the original was the best because it was so different and
Mhm.
shocking and stuff. But yeah,
Hmm.
Blair Witch too. Yep,
I
definitely.
found it very interesting. It was
I
it
think,
was not what I was expecting, but I enjoyed
yeah,
it.
I think that's the problem is people were expecting a hard sequel, and it was
Yeah.
not.
Hmm.
I think it was about 10 to 15 years ahead of its time. It was very meta,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
the term meta didn't happen until like 10 or 15 years later. Um, but man, if you go back and watch it, the concept of what what is reality, and like there's a line at the beginning of the film when they're just chit-chatting around the fire, and
Hmm.
Jeffrey Donovan, he says, he's telling Kim, he says, film lies, but video
Hmm.
doesn't. And when you go back and watch that with that in mind, everything you see, because it was shot very intentionally. Some of it's on film and some of it is on video. You go back
Hmm.
and watch that, and everything you see that they shoot on film, you can't trust. It's
Right.
lying to you. But everything you see that's on video, that's the truth. That's what's
Hmm.
actually happening. And so, man, it was just,
Yeah.
it's a very, very brilliant film on multiple levels. I love it.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah. I agree. I actually I own it, and it's
it. Yeah.
actually a movie that every once in a while I'll pop in, and I didn't understand. I mean, like you said, I understand that people were expecting, something along the lines of the first movie, and that's what threw them off. But even when I saw it, as a kid, I was just like, hey, this is actually pretty good. It was different, and I enjoyed that. So, but that's a good hot take. I like that.
Yeah.
Here's a good question, since we're doing hot takes.
Yeah.
Um, Now, obviously, you're doing Night of the Beast,
Mhm.
so obviously you're a Jason fan.
Mhm.
Um,
Obviously.
yeah,
Obviously.
and obviously I am too. I've got the Friday
Yeah.
the 13th box set. Um, here's my question, because again, when I think of the big three, I think Freddy, Michael, and Jason.
Mhm.
Out of the three, who's your favorite character, if you
That's
have
really
one?
tough. I really like Freddy a lot. Um, I would probably have to go with Freddy. Jason is a really, really close second. Um, I like them both
Hmm.
immensely. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, but I think
Okay.
Freddy might edge it out just a tad.
Okay. All right. Do you have a favorite, Marilyn?
Jason.
Oh, that was quick. All right.
I sat there
All
and
right.
thought about it. I like
My
Michael too. Michael's very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Are you a fan of the new Halloween movies, Marilyn?
Yes, I am actually.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
Cool.
like
Yeah.
seeing uh, the family members being more involved
Hmm.
and yeah, setting up like we know he's coming and
Yes.
doing stuff.
Yes.
Evil dies tonight.
Yeah, I will say, because we did a series on all the movies, including Halloween Kills. I will say that maybe The Evil Dies Tonight could have been toned down, a little bit, but other than that, I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I really, really did.
Yeah, it's
But
fun. I mean, you
yeah.
can't to me you can't get too critical about some of that stuff.
Hmm.
You have to go with the flow and enjoy it. And I traditionally I applaud during movies when Paul and I, my husband, watch them and
Nice.
kills or something that pops up. I'm just like, yay, and
That's
laugh.
awesome. Very,
Yeah.
very cool. Very cool. Um, Brian saying, I'd go with Freddy too, because he can kill you in your dreams, so there's nowhere to go when he kills you.
No.
Yes, very
Blah,
true.
Blech.
Very true.
blah. That's terrifying.
It is
I
that,
know.
especially that original. That original
Yeah,
was
that
a
one. Yeah.
masterpiece.
Yeah, it was.
Mm.
Pamela liked it too. All right. Um, well, okay, guys. Well, I think we'll get ready to wind it down. Because I could
I,
literally.
I just want to say I really enjoyed talking with you.
Yes.
I've done a lot
Oh
of these
yes.
lately, trying to
Uh-huh.
push these, and
Mhm.
you're definitely in my top tier of people that I've enjoyed talking to quite a bit.
Oh,
So
oh, geez, thank you.
anytime you want me back to talk about horror films and just chit chat, doesn't have to be about my stuff, but I'd love to come back.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I
I've
really
enjoyed
appreciate
myself
that.
too very much. And you ask great questions, and the conversation is fun. And I've enjoyed myself very much.
Oh, you guys come. Oh, group hug. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And for me, again, and I know I've already said this before we went live and while we were live, but I'm just really appreciative of you guys taking some time to do this. And like I said, I know you guys are busy. And Jason, when we were talking about doing this, and I know your schedule, work schedule, and my work schedule is a little
Yeah.
hectic as well. So I do appreciate this, and I really think I I enjoyed this conversation so much, and I think we covered, and I have a little, some bullet points. We covered a lot more than what I thought we would, um, with your films, but just as importantly, at least in my viewpoint for viewers, just getting to know you guys a little bit, just as folks and as horror fans, and
Yeah.
I think that's what makes for me anyways, doing YouTube, that's what makes it so much fun, is just connecting with other folks that have a similar passion. So I really do thank you guys so much. I really, really do. And I'd love not only to have you back on, but yeah, we can have other, crew or cast if they're available,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we can talk about that.
I'll
And
reach out to him and see who would like to come on.
absolutely, this was fantastic. And we have a few more comments in here. I think the folks might be uh, giving some goodbyes. It looks like yes, Brian saying great stream, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jeez, you guys are. Jeez, Dan, come on. Night Watch Zone is the best. And truth be told, a lot of these guys so supportive in the community and of this channel, and they're good content creators as well. So very, very cool, guys. You guys are the best. Pamela giving us some hearts. Brian, live long and prosper. Yes, for the Trekkies out there that know.
Right.
Rest in peace to Leonard Nimoy, one of my favorites.
Aw,
God, I
know.
loved him. I loved him. Insane One saying, thank you all for taking the time to share with us. Great content always comes from Night. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. And Pamela saying, awesome chat. Thank you so much, guys. Well, again, I will have the links to Alone in the description because that is on YouTube. I'll also have the link to the Indiegogo. And hopefully for you guys watching the replay or you guys in the live chat right now, check it out. These two films to me are very, very cool. And again, Marilyn, you were great, creepy as hell in the best possible way.
Thank you.
Yes, and I do mean it. And like I said, when Misery is a favorite of mine. When I saw that as a kid, Kathy Bates haunted my dreams for a long time. But I love the vibe of Alone. It's very cool, and Masquerade was very good as well. So for you guys watching, please check this out. Please support Jason in these projects because I think it's important to not only be supportive of other horror content creators and filmmakers and artists, but to just share this with people. I think it's such a great time to be a horror fan, in my opinion. So, so that'll be that. We're going to get ready to sign off.
I want to leave everybody
Sure.
with one last thought.
Okay.
So everyone who has seen Alone and Masquerade, both films, imagine Sylvia and Patty meeting.
Oh man,
You said it. I didn't.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
Now, all right. Now, wait a second. We're not leaving yet. Because in the back of my mind, when you started to tease a little bit, that's what I was gonna ask, and I said to myself, I don't want to ask
Don't do
that.
it. Yeah.
I'm not
Marilyn's
confirming or denying it. I'm just saying imagine
Okay.
it. It's a
Okay.
possibility.
All right. Well, I'm gonna be imagining it a lot. But very cool though. Very cool. And again, Marilyn, great performance. I'm very excited to see what might or might not happen next with this particular saga. Very, very cool. Very, very cool, Jason. I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna put us out into our intro. I'll have you guys just hold on for 1 second while that's playing. And anyways, for you guys watching, thanks a lot for hanging out with us. We're going to do this again, hopefully soon. So stay tuned. And as I usually say for you guys watching, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you yourself are the Night Watch. Peace out, guys.